Solving literal equations. A literal equation is just an equation that has multiple variables in it. And if you're solving a literal equation, that just means you want to isolate one of the variables or get one of the variables by itself. So let's look at this first example. It says c equals 2 pi r. So hopefully you recognize this formula as the circumference of a circle. So if we want to isolate the r value, we want to get this r value by itself. Right now, 2 pi r are all being multiplied together. Anytime you have numbers and variables all stuck together like that, it's just multiplication. So the inverse of multiplication, of course, is division. So we are going to divide both sides of our equation by 2 pi. That's what we want to get rid of. So let's divide both sides of our equation by 2 pi. And please remember, if you would like to, you are more than welcome to separate your equation with your vertical bar here to kind of keep everything straight if you want to separate the two sides of your equation. Now, c and 2 pi are not divisible by the same values. We can't reduce them, so we just leave it as c divided by 2 pi equals 2 divided by 2, of course, is just 1. Pi divided by pi is just, of course, 1. So 1 times r just gives us r. All right, let's look at the second equation here. Again, we just have straight multiplication all the way through this equation. So distance equals rate times time. If we want to solve for time, we need to get rid of this r value. So we'll just divide both sides by r. We'll just divide both sides by r. Now, d and r are not divisible by the same value, so we'll just do that. And then r divided by r gives us 1, so we're left with 1t or just t. So if you want to know the time that it's going to take to travel somewhere, you just take the distance that you will be traveling and divide by the rate that you're driving or walking or cycling, whatever that may be. All right, so these next two problems are a little more advanced. This one right here says perimeter equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So I'm going to start here by drawing my vertical bar. And in this problem, hopefully you notice that we not only have multiplication, we also have addition. So if we want to isolate the length, or this L value right here, the first thing that we need to do is get rid of our 2w. Remember, we need to subtract our 2w. We did this when we were solving linear equations earlier. So let's subtract 2w from both sides. And then p minus 2w, those are not like terms, so we just go ahead and drop both of those down, equals 2l. And then, of course, 2w minus 2w, those just cancel to 0. So we're almost there. We still need to get this L by itself. It's being multiplied by this 2. So we'll divide both sides by 2. We're going to divide both sides of our equation by 2. And when we do that, p minus 2w all over 2, all three of those terms have to be divisible by 2 in order to reduce them. And since all three of them are not divisible by the same value, we're just going to leave it as p minus 2w over 2 equals 2 divided by 2 gives us 1, so 1L or just L. Now, this is a perfectly acceptable way to leave your solution. However, you might be taking a multiple choice test, or you just want to see what an equivalent expression or an equivalent equation would be. I just need you to recognize that this 2 is dividing both the P and the 2W. So let's figure out another way to write this, what L could equal. L equals, I'm going to break apart my fraction. P is being divided by 2 minus my 2w, which is also being divided by 2. We just broke our fraction apart into two separate fractions. All right, so our length equals perimeter divided by 2 minus, and our second fraction, we see that 2 divided by 2 is 1, so that reduces, and we're just left with w. So both of these equations are perfectly acceptable. It just depends on which format works best for you with the problem that you are solving at the time. So both of these are correct answers. All right, last one. 3x plus 2y equals 6. You'll see this a lot when you are working with linear equations, wanting to solve them or perhaps graph them. If we want to solve for our y variable, then the first thing that we want to do is get rid of our 3x. We want to subtract 3x from both sides of our equation. Okay, 3x minus 3x, of course, gives us our 0. We'll bring down our 2y, and that should equal our negative 3x, and then our 6 is positive. Now, you could have written 6 minus 3x. You could have switched the order of these two terms, and it would still be correct. However, I just know from experience that we are going to be probably using this to graph later on, and generally speaking, the variable term is listed first and then the constant. But like I said, it's okay if you switch the order of them. It's not a big deal. And then we want to divide both sides of our equation by 2. So if I divide this side by 2, I want to divide the entire right side by 2 also. Now, because I know that we're going to probably be using this in slope-intercept form, I am just going to divide both of these terms individually by 2, just like we did over here on this problem. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and write it like this to begin with. So 2 divided by 2 gives us 1, so 1y, or just y, equals. And then I know that this negative 3 divided by 2 does not reduce, so I'll rewrite it as negative 3 over 2, and then I have my x variable, and then 6 divided by 2 gives us 3, so plus 3. So essentially what we just did here was take our equation in standard form and convert it into slope-intercept form. And if you need more help with solving linear equations, I would encourage you to go and find that video that I already have posted for you.